Now, if I was on a desert island and I could only choose the corpus of all known references to one legendary or para-weird entity, it would surely be uncanny lights that came out at night. There have always been various different types of nocturnal light sightings, and not just lights associated with UFOs or even airships. No, no, not at all, and it somehow wouldn't do if that was the case. A world without nocturnal lights would be a darker world indeed. Now, while airships and other phantom aircraft may sometimes follow a pattern of waves, like the 1896 and 97 airship wave in the US, do spook lights and other common nocturnal lights follow this type of pattern too? I think we'll find that while the answer is sort of, it's also very hard to tell. In any case, the spook light or ghost light is a very common feature in folklore. Some spook lights, like the Paulding Light in Michigan or the Joplin, Missouri spook light, are caused by simple optical phenomena associated with cars driving at night. I think we can probably expect these types of lights to be reported pretty regularly since they have known physical causes that happen regularly. But reports of spook lights, spirit lights, or ghost lights also commonly predate the era of cars, let alone flying saucers. Here are some reports of spooks at Crawfordshire, Indiana in 1891. These sightings were explained in one news story as a flock of killdeer. In a famous case from Norwich, England in the late 1900s, there were numerous reports of luminous owl sightings. There are diverse descriptions of other similar lights. Hufford also cites, for example, jack-o'-lantern sightings in Newfoundland around 1900, noting their similarity to some modern UFO reports. Another common one in English-speaking folklore is the will-o'-the-wisp that misleads travelers. Nocturnal lights are also reported in diverse cultures, often associated with spirits or supernatural entities. Spirit lights, or hitodama, that are in essence the ghosts of the dead, as well as demon lights, or onibi, are described in the folklore and popular media of Japan, for example. Now, tonight I just wanted to highlight a few examples of the pre-UFO era nocturnal light type report, mostly from a few newspaper articles I found in the Library of Congress free online newspaper archives. These are stories of so-called ghost lights reported in and perhaps around Meade County, Kansas, in at least February through April of 1913. What follows is a later sighting by the Compton family in their horse-drawn carriage from the April 16th Americus Daily Times Recorder. Quote, "A few nights ago, John C. Compton, traveling overland with his family from Oklahoma to Lake, Kansas, drove hastily into Meade and reported seeing a strange light in the very vicinity where the mysterious Sand Creek ghost light formerly held forth. We were driving along slowly when suddenly a great white light, very bright, appeared to be coming toward us," said Mr. Compton. "When the light came within a few rods of us, it suddenly disappeared, only to reappear in a short time. It was northwest of Lakeland. Just how far we were from the post office I cannot say, but I should judge about 6 or 7 miles. Every time the light appeared, the horses reared and plunged, and we were compelled to stop to avert a runaway. At first I thought it was an automobile light, but it was too large and bright for that, and as no machine appeared, I gave up that idea. It was certainly the most bewildering and gruesome light I ever saw, and I cannot understand what it was." Unquote. It seems that many locals, such as a W.L. Painter, were very familiar with the light when questioned. Says Painter, quote, "I have seen it on 25 or 30 different occasions, but have never been able to explain it. It would first appear like the light of a lantern, but immediately bloomed out as big as a full moon. It looked somewhat like the headlight of a locomotive coming around a curve suddenly and was accompanied by a roaring sound like the escaping of steam, but there is no railroad within 20 miles. It reappeared at intervals of from 1 to 7 days. It would never get closer than 60 or 70 rods and seemed always to come from the northwest. I and members of my family have observed it many times. We know it in our neighborhood as the ghost light. When it shows up, it always badly frightens horses and has been the cause of many runaway accidents. The horses seem to know its approach before it is sighted. About 6 years ago, many others besides myself repeatedly saw this ghastly light, and it disappeared about the same time that the Germans settled that portion of the country. At one time, it appeared to be directly in front of the Lakeland post office, and several times while driving at night has it appeared, always causing the horses to be alarmingly frightened. One citizen saw it and attempted to go to it, but it disappeared with no remaining sign or mark left to tell the tale. Unquote. I am struck by the mention of the roaring sound. Could this offer an explanation for what the light was, or was the reported sound caused by something unrelated to the light? There were also articles in newspapers in the months before, from the Hutchinson, Kansas News on March 17th of 1913, quote, "A prominent Meade man now adds his experience to those who have already seen the light, and this gentleman is none other than H.N. Holdeman, our popular breeder of high-class cattle and hogs, living 1.5 miles south of this city. On the evening of March 3rd, Mr. Holdeman was going home from Meade, and when he entered the north and south road, he noticed ahead of him, quite a distance, a light close to the ground. As he drew nearer, he noticed the strange light was in the road near the lane running to his residence. At first he thought it was a snowbank near the corner of the fence. So white was the light. But as he approached, no snow was visible, and the mysterious illumination lit up the road and fields for several rods around, excuse me. As soon as he reached the place where the ghost light appeared, he at once got out of his vehicle to make investigation. As he approached, within a few yards of the light, it rose from the ground and came directly toward him, and then apparently only a few feet away, disappeared and was all dark. Mr. Holdeman says it was a very strange experience, and he would like very much for some scientists to inform him what this strange and uncanny light could be. Unquote. This clipping comes from a collection of clippings on ghost lights that are available for free on Ufos.org. It's clear from this article that numerous other sightings were reported in February. I found other articles from March and April too. From the Topeka State Journal, quote, "Lakeland, Kansas, March 18th. Farmers and stockmen here are making up a purse to bring a scientist here to investigate a ghost light, which is seen almost nightly and is causing alarm. R.H. Painter, Orrin Van Dusen, and H.N. Holdeman have observed the mysterious light. It first appears as a motor car light, but when approached, It rises from the ground and disappears. It has been seen most frequently in Sand Creek Township. Unquote. Personally, these reports sound quite a lot like modern spooklight reports and are likely some form of simple optical phenomenon involving the light from distant car or train headlamps. It's odd to me that this article mentions an R.H. Painter, and the witness from the much later article is named W.L. Painter, but this could easily just be a coincidence, if not a highly improbable and without a doubt certainly not the case scenario of twins working telepathically with plasma entities. Now, in his account, W.L. Painter says that they've made many, quote, attempts to ascertain the cause of the strange light, unquote. I wonder if someone ever endeavored to explain the light by studying it in the field. It seems doubtful, but maybe? From the Topeka Daily State Journal, April 26, 1913, quote, the mystery of the Meade County ghost light has not yet been solved to my knowledge, although scientists, investigators, spiritualists, and even more or less scientific gentlemen have been busy on the case. There isn't any joke about this ghost light either, remarked J.K. Thomas of Meade. Many of our best people have seen it and wonder at it. The light is commonly seen in Lakeland Township. It is very similar to a marsh light, but it is much brighter. There is no low ground there and no dampness, and so it must be caused by something else than a marsh. Unquote. Here is another article that talks about a similar light observed on the dried-out Walnut Creek bed near Hutchinson, Kansas, this time 3 years later in 1916. As with the Sand Creek light, the light was reportedly observed decades earlier by a local witness, one named Perry Bowman. I think there is a lot more that can likely be said about this story. There did appear to be a sort of minor scare or wave in February and March, and perhaps again in April. The statements of witnesses suggest that the light at Sand Creek may have occurred at different times in the past. But if reports are correct, then there were also previous sightings, so the wave may have been more one of newspaper notoriety at the time than one that actually reflected the frequency at which people saw these particular lights. Without knowing what caused the prairie lights at Sand Creek, Lakeland, and other places in Kansas, we can't really know for sure what caused them to be reported. A wave of reports is only an indication of how often people reported something to have happened, and not what happened or even how frequently it actually happened. Given the scant evidence I found so far, which only amounts to news articles, I have a feeling that none of these particular stories are the result of hoaxes, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully, I will find more details on the Kansas ghost lights and talk about them in another episode sometime. As for tonight, I must say it was very light of you to join me on this strange journey.